4:30 this afternoon, the New Zealand Grand Prix. The Formula Holden's on show. That will be the second chance today to show what they can do. The first opportunity, an 18-lap event, and as he will be for the Grand Prix, Scott Dixon on pole. Let's go to the grid for our first chance to assess the Formula Holdens.
So behind Scotty Dixon's pole position for this Tasman Express opener at Ruapuna, Simon Wills in the second spot, holding out the other Kiwi we thought was going to be up front, Greg Murphy. Jason Leifting, Kiwi from Mercer, doing a great job for fourth spot. And Walter van Uwijk, fifth place for the Dutchman. Looking at the sixth place is Chris Staff. He's a Queensland-based Kiwi, running a Reynard. Brenton Ramsey is from Australia, from Adelaide. He's teammate to Simon Wills. Akihiro Asai is the Japanese driver, now based in Melbourne and full-time in these cars. Les Crampton is in the ninth spot, and number 10 is Graham Sims, the ex-All Black, finally getting a run in his Reynard 90D. On the grid and ready to roll for this Tasman Express race, Scotty Dixon on the pole position. Murphy trying to pull alongside, but Simon Wills has got the lead away. So Scotty Dixon, not renowned for his big starts, has lost the lead, and Murphy will slot in second as well. Well, that is a sensational start from this young guy out front, the young Aucklander Simon Wills in the Barana team racing Reynard, and got the lead away from Greg Murphy. Scotty Dixon has to settle in the third spot. Then I think it's the Dutchman, Walter van Uwijk, who will take out the fourth spot at the moment. But a great start from Simon Wills, Brett Riley.
Yeah, a very poor start from Scott, obviously. And Simon's very confident this morning. And, well, there he is. He's out in the lead and he's driving incredibly well. Obviously, Greg running second is going to be a problem for Scott now.
Shows you what can happen. I mean, Simon Wills, we were talking to him just a little while ago. He was saying that he really hoped that he could come on strong towards the end of this race. Look at what he's doing right now, the opening moments. And Scotty Dixon, who has been in dominant form here in qualifying for both the races today, the Grand Prix later and this prelim, is now settled back in third spot and really has to work now to try and catch these guys. The top four breaking away a little bit with Walter van Uwijk in the fourth running car, the green and red car. And looking back there, I think that's Jason Leifting on board with Scotty Dixon as he comes down the front straight, trying to get the run on Greg Murphy. Will go down the inside line. Murphy just giving him a little bit of space there. Is he or isn't he? Simon Wills moving out ahead. Who's got the lead? It's still Greg Murphy. Sparks flying from the underneath of the car.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that Scott was going to make the move there, but Greg's defended very, very well. And, you know, in the meantime, Simon's going to run away with this if Scott doesn't get a move on here.
That's the big worry because, of course, Scotty Dixon was so fast, but Greg Murphy did feel happy with that car. Maybe he has got some more speed out of it. Oh, someone off there. That looks like Chris Staff, the young Aussie-based Kiwi, who has done very, very well here. In fact, it's the teammate of the race leader, that is Brenton Ramsey, and the other Barana racing Reynard. So a bit of an off for the Aussie out of Adelaide.
Yeah, a little bit of mixed fortunes for the Barana team at this stage. Simon up front and Brenton going off there. But look at Simon, he's got a lovely lead there. And Greg's really holding Scott back. So I would imagine Simon's going to come out of this lap with a two-second lead, perhaps.
Well, Simon Wills, look at this. No, Murphy is still reasonably close to him. So Murphy, I think, has picked up some extra speed since yesterday's qualifying sessions. Did say that he thought so from warm-up today. But no, he's getting dropped a little bit, but not as much as he may have feared. As Simon Wills puts it down, running down the front straight here at Ruapuna and looking on. Scotty Dixon trying to find some way that he can get in contention with Greg Murphy.
Yeah, well, Scott's really got to sort of formulate some sort of plan to get on top of Greg here, because Greg's just not going to be hard to pass, or he's just going to keep him back for all he's worth. And Scott is very fast on this part of the circuit, but as you can see, he's not really gaining any advantage.
Oh, lots of dust there, Brett. That's from the debris of the accident before. That looks a bit dangerous because the guys came through there, seemed to be caught a little unawares by it, and really running through lots of dust and dirt lying all over the track. Luckily, it hasn't changed things up front.
Yes, there didn't appear to be any real yellow flags or anything like that, or indicating to the drivers there was a problem.
So we're watching Greg Murphy sitting in the second spot. Simon Wills out front. Greg Murphy in second, and holding back, we do think, a little bit, Scotty Dixon, as Scott Dixon tries to get back in contention and make good the qualifying performance as we go on board with Scotty in that beautiful golden helmet. Very significant. basically trying to come up with the gold here, but he's only sitting in bronze position right now, with Murphy holding him out as they come onto the front straight here at Ruapuna. There's the exterior shot of the Turner's Car Auctions. Reynard running down, wait for him to pull out of the slipstream as they come down the front straight. No way, no, he realised there wasn't a passing move on. Now down the inside, just to make a liar of me, Greg Murphy slipped a little wide, left a gap, and Scotty Dixon, a nice clean move straight through down the inside. Yeah, well, it didn't really look like that manoeuvre was on, but it's saying like Greg left the gap, and then with Scotty went straight through it, and I'm sure he'll be starting to pull some time now on Simon to get away from Greg. Well, not so surprising, really, the way things have been for Greg Murphy as we have been running down. He really has been the man in trouble out of these top three. But Simon Wills, man, he is going to be a very, very happy boy in the cockpit of that Reynard right now, as he can see in the rear vision mirrors that this man is dropping back a little bit. Looking back now at the repassing move down the front straight into the left-hander. There's a kink first of all. Now it tightens up a bit more. Now that was a great move by Scotty Dixon. Yeah, very, very clean. There's no hassle there. He just actually put it in exactly the right place. And at the end of the day, it was too late for Greg to do anything. Well, sitting up with us here for this race in the commentary position is Kenny Smith, a double winner of the New Zealand Grand Prix, and of course manager of Scotty Dixon. Kenny, the question is, can Scotty get up there and get in contention with Simon Wills from here?
If we don't run out of laps, I'd say Scott will definitely overhaul Simon. He's pretty determined when he gets left behind. He doesn't give an inch, he tries hard.
So you would have been disappointed, I'm sure, as will have Scotty been, with that start that he got.
Scott always seems to have problems taking off. His starting problem is not the best, but he's determined when he's in there, and I'm sure he'll get the quickest lap and close that gap very shortly.
Well, on board with Scotty Dixon now as he still works there trying to catch up with Simon Wills, who is out front, not moving away anymore, because now that Scott Dixon has worked his way by Greg Murphy, we're looking to see if there may be some move up the order there and see if the young guy, the 18-year-old from Auckland, who is the Australian Gold Star champion in this class, oh, he's working the car hard. You see it moving around quite a bit there. Yeah, Simon's not going to be that keen on having Scott in his mirrors. He'd have been more comfortable seeing Greg there because Greg's car perhaps lacked the speed, but now Scott's starting to catch him a little bit, and Simon will be wondering if this is the crucial part of the race. He's really got to keep the pressure on himself, try and retain that gap. At the moment it's quite comfortable, but having Scott's car in your mirrors is not going to be a good feeling for Simon. Well, I think everyone's been most impressed with Simon Wills and the performance he's put in. We were just saying at Teretonga that really we figured that maybe he had it in him to get up there in contention and have a bit of fire in the belly and go for the win. Well, I think he's proven now that he's definitely got that fire, made a sensational start and really hasn't done a thing wrong in this race so far, that's for sure. Yeah, no, he's talked very confidently from the beginning of the day that he'd got the car right eventually, and it showed in that start, great start, and I think Simon's the sort of driver that once he gets into the lead, he's not going to really relinquish very easily, I should say. So Kenny Smith, I mean, you have to give a big rap to this guy, even though he's in the opposition camp. He really has settled into this class very well with his performances during the season when he was able to take the battle to Scotty a couple of times, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm very impressed with what Simon's doing. He's sort of come out of smaller cars, and he's proved with the mileage he's doing in these cars that he's very, very competitive.
And there's the gap now as we look back to Scott Dixon in the 35 car, the Turner's Car Auction Reynard. Coming onto the front straight here at Ruapuna, and Wills has got the job done in the opening moments of the race, that's for sure. All he has to do is stay steady, keep the car balanced, keep it clean, and he was very, very happy with it today. He reckons that they have found the right setup on it. There was still a little compromise, but really this track has got to be a pretty difficult place to set a car up for, I would think, Brett. Yeah, it's a very complicated circuit, a lot of complex corners, and you've got to get your car working right. And I say, well, there's Greg, his car's not working that well, and he's been left behind at this point in time, but Simon's really got to retain the pressure on himself. Here's Greg going round. Well, I think you can see that Greg Murphy is definitely being dropped off the pace now as he works the infield, coming away from the hairpin. There's our top three order, Wills, Dixon, Murphy, and Greg Murphy will be just driving it out at the moment, knowing that there's nothing he can do right now until unless something else changes with the race, of course. But that's all he could do right from the start. He was like, shrug the shoulders. What can I do? I'll just get in it. I'll drive the car. I'll do as much as I can do. It's got to be a frustrating situation, Kenny Smith, when you can't get your car set up right, ready for a big race like this.
No, it's very awkward trying to get through the infield there. That's where all the problems are. And if you actually watch Scott's car, it seems to be quicker than any of them through there, but he's obviously got a good setup, and I think Murphy's struggling, and Simon's looks not too bad.
So Greg Murphy down the front straight at Ruapuna. In the background you can see the Dutchman Wouter van Nieuwijk coming through in his Reynard. This is the car he's actually taken over from his ex-teammate Robert Lechner. Now Lechner had a big crash here in testing on Thursday, and after that there was a disagreement between the team and Robert and his dad Walter Lechner, who is a racing driver himself and a team owner. Basically they agreed to disagree, and the Lechners departed the scene. And thereafter, I think the engine in Wouter's car was actually also destroyed. So they've now kind of pieced together something out of the two and at least salvaged this effort. And it's come just at the right time, really, for the Dutchman, because he really is one of the improvers in the scene, having made his debut only last weekend.
Yeah, he's running a clear fourth, but he's not really putting any pressure on the boys in front of him, is he? And that's where he's been pretty much the last 2 or 3 days, sort of around that fourth position, but not really, not really coming in on the top three. But they are way ahead of the rest at this point in time. But he's, he's doing a good job in that respect.
Just looking at the times on our timesheet, Scotty Dixon clocking a 1:15.89 second lap. Well, Simon Wills has just replied with a time just a tenth of a second slower, but the previous lap was about 3/10 slower of Simon Wills. So that gap is being closed down by Scotty Dixon. So quite interesting as we're looking back down the field at the moment.
Yep, and that's, I'm not too sure who that is going through there. We're not getting a very clear picture, but there's back on Simon. I say he's responded to Scott's lap time.
Oh, there, look at Scotty Dixon. Sorry, I panicked there for a moment, wondering what was going on as he went by a lap car. So panic mode for Munro, but out front, very, very calm nerves, and Scotty Dixon really also calm and closing in now on the lead by the look of it as they take the infield. Kenny Smith looking very anxiously as he watches what's going on here with his young charge, Scott Dixon. Kenny, what do you think?
Well, he's making up ground pretty rapid now, and I know in traffic he doesn't mess around with them. He'll go through and take chances, and if we have enough time, he will get there.
So let's just watch Scotty Dixon as he comes around towards the start line again. We've put one more lap down. They're about a third of the way through this race right now as we watch Simon Wills coming through in the Barana Racing Reynard. And we'll be off to a break. Stay with us. We'll be back with more action from the Tasman Express Series. Ruapuna, where the race continues up front. Simon Wills just holding off this man in the Turner's Car Auction Reynard. This is our race leader, the car of Simon Wills at the hairpin, and that is the gap. Not a very big gap as Scotty Dixon tries to chase down the lead in this race. A lead that was taken by Simon Wills, of course, in the opening moments of the race. Got a great run off the line as he did at Teretonga the week before, and really proving that is a very important part of the race package, Brett.
Yeah, well, as you said, he's got a great start, and here he is. He's got a, maybe a 1.5 second gap, and that sort of gap is stabilised. It seesaws a little bit as the laps roll by. One goes a little faster than the other, but they're generally holding station. So far Simon's been mistake-free, and that's the key. No mistakes, and he could clean Scotty out here, but there's Scotty locking up a brake, so you can tell him that he is trying extremely hard to try and pull that gap back.
So Scotty Dixon, this view as he travels down the front straight at Ruapuna. So we're on board with Scott. Just let's listen and watch as he runs to the left-hander. We're looking back at a replay of some action that went on. There's Dixon coming around, and behind him, the 24 car, I believe it is, of Ian Peters has a big lose. That's where we had some dramas earlier on and debris over the track there, but I think Peters lost it before that corner. So we're looking now at our race leader, Simon Wills, out of Auckland, a man who had experience in British Formula 3 for a couple of years, went to Australia last year and joined this series, and did manage to clock a couple of wins up, even though Scott Dixon was so dominant And in that series, he won it with a round to spare. Simon Wills looking to do big things. See him working pretty hard in the cockpit of that Reynard through the infield.
Yeah, he's really moving his arms around. He's going through the back markers, and that's the problem. That's where the gap's going to seesaw a little bit. Held up marginally there, and Scott's perhaps pulled back a fraction there, but Simon will be pleased that he's past that back marker, and Scott's still got to deal with him. But here he comes down the straight, well clear, and I would imagine Scott would have gone past the back marker by the time they reached the first corner, hopefully.
Beautiful pictures we're getting there of the Reynard out front in this One World of Sport production here at Ruapuna. It's a bit of a cloudy day now. We had a scorching hot day yesterday. These guys will be happy with this situation. It's a bit easier on them and certainly easier on the cars. They'll probably extract a bit more speed out of it, Kenny Smith.
Yeah, the weather makes a difference to it. If you get a nice cool air, these things pick up some more speed down the straight very quick.
So now what do you think? It looks like Scott is not actually making any inroads right now. The time seemed to have stabilised pretty much between Simon Wills and Scott Dixon with the lap times. Greg Murphy's just about a tenth of a second off their pace. There we go, that's the gap, 1.7 seconds. Back from Simon Wills to Scotty Dixon.
Yeah, Scott will keep trying, he won't give in, but there's no doubt about it, Simon's putting on a good performance, especially driving from the front, because you're suspect of being caught when you're running in the front.
Yeah, sure, it's a mistake-free drive so far, and that's where he's got to keep it really. Brilliant so far, I say no mistakes, and that's the key to this event. He's just keeping the gap there, you know, their times are varying maybe a fraction of a second, you know, a tenth this way, a tenth that way, but at the end of the day, it's not really changing the race at all. It's just cat and mouse stuff.
So Simon Wills, what's he really got to look out for at this point? He's really got to just worry about himself, settle himself completely down and just concentrate on the job at hand, make sure, as you say, absolutely no mistakes.
Yeah, that's it, Wayne, really. He's just got to keep himself together, keep his act together.
Oh, Scotty Dixon locking a wheel there.
Yeah, well, see, the pressure is on Scott. He's made a mistake there, and that'll be great for Simon. He'll look at that and see in his mirrors that Scott's made a mistake and perhaps lost another second, and that'll make Simon even stronger. He'll believe that he can't really lose his place from here on in.
So, Kenny, watching that just then, seeing Scotty there, I mean, he is only such a young guy. He's 18 years of age. It is pretty incredible the things he's done, but at the end of the day, he's 18. He must feel the pressure, even when he's in the race car.
Yeah, I mean, everybody feels pressure, but it amazes me that he is locking up brakes. I know he's trying, but he has got a reasonably level head out there. So, but, you know, they all make mistakes. Must give credit to Simon. He's doing a good job from the front. Very good.
Yeah, and I think
so
that's
I wonder what Kenny's going to be saying to him after this. There'll be some words shared, I guess, between you and your young charge after the race.
If he only gets off the line good, he can win without any problems. But unfortunately, all through Australia, he's had this little problem of getting off the line in these cars.
So Brent Riley just watching how Simon Wills is dominating this race at the moment. I mean, it kind of looks interesting for the Grand Prix this afternoon, because I think everyone was still tempted to think in terms of Murphy, Scotty Dixon really as the two arch rivals in the co-stars, if you like, but you definitely cannot count this guy out right now.
Well, no, as I say, he's improved from last week. Last week he was a big factor, but he just sort of sat there quietly working away. This week, you know, you only have to talk to the man himself and see that the confidence is there. He knows he could probably go out and win this event. You know, he wants to win the New Zealand Grand Prix just like all the other boys do, but, you know, he's making the running. He's got off the line, and that's the important thing. You get out front, and then it's chase up for everybody else, and it's a case of you know, no mistakes, and just keep it nice and tight, keep the consistency there, and say that the pressure is a lot more on Scott now. You know, Scott has made the mistakes, and I say Simon will be aware of that, and that'll just give him even more confidence. So it's a mind game at the end of the day. You know, it swings and roundabouts.
Well, he will see in his rear vision mirrors right now as they go down the front straight just how far back Scotty Dixon is. Dixon's just run a time that's about 0.3 of a second quicker than our race leader, even though the gap is out to 2.2 seconds. It seems that Scotty had that bad patch a couple of laps ago when he had the moment at the hairpin. That was definitely costly. He locked the brake. He had a very bad exit speed to the corner as well and bobbled around. But now he looks like he's on a charge again. So the young guy just picking it up and trying to really get back in contention.
Yeah, well, this will be the critical part of the race now. They're midway through, or, you know, virtually towards the end of the race, and this is his last real go at it. He's got 1 or 2 laps to string something really special together. So all Simon really needs to do is keep his act together.
Kenny Smith, what is the potential here for these cars? Just tell us. I mean, with Scotty Dixon, has he got anything extra in the setup of his car that is going to work in his favour coming into the last half of this race?
No, I think it's like anything. If you're running from behind, you can always make a charge at somebody, even if your car's not quite right. But I'm sure the two front cars obviously are pretty much the same.
Watching them as they come down across the start-finish line one more time. They've now completed 15 laps. Simon Wills still clocking a time that's about 0.4 of a second slower than Scott Dixon. So Dixon is definitely charging. He realises that the time has come now really to put this big effort in. So let's watch this battle very closely. You can see that there's only empty track behind them. These are really the only two in contention, unless of course they did the unthinkable and tangle somewhere around the track.
Yeah, well, of course they're trying both very hard now, but both of them have basically turned into very much the identical lap times on that last lap, so which is probably lap record, I would imagine, 1:15.8. So even though Scott's gone faster, Simon's gone with him, so it seems he can respond that well when Scott applies the pressure.
Well, let's see what the response is from Simon Wills. He will be checking the rear vision mirrors, that's for sure, and we just wonder what that point is when it gets to be a problem with him. Here's the view from Scotty Dixon as we travel on board with him. The view as he looks ahead to that blue Reynard up ahead, and it looks a long way away, but in fact it's not a very big gap running back to them. And Dixon, they're coming around to the front straight now, and we will see in just a couple of seconds just what sort of difference they've made in that gap as we watch Simon Wills come across the start-finish line, looking for the time that he puts up now. Well, he is responding, in fact. So Dixon has been about 1/10 of a second quicker that time.
Yeah, but it's not going to be enough to make the difference. You know, the laps are winding down, and even though Scott's coming in, it's probably not enough to really have a real good go at it. But there he is. He's still trying incredibly hard. You know, yeah, 1/10 of a second is a little bit, but you know, look at the number of laps left. There's not a lot, are there?
Mind you, it must be. It's a pretty fine line, isn't it, before it does start to become a worry for Simon Wills out front, that he can see in the rear vision mirror that the yellow and blue car is getting closer and closer. And the more attention he pays to that, the more chance there is of a mistake on his part.
Yeah, psychologically it's hard, yes.
Travelling on board again with Scotty Dixon. There's the gap. Now, Kenny Smith, your thoughts at the moment?
Well, I don't know how many laps there is to go, but Scott's certainly moving in as long as he doesn't make too many mistakes. If he gets closer to Simon, he might rattle him.
Yes, Kenny, I think the time's run out for him because there's way too big a gap. Lap traffic may play a part in it as we see Simon Wills about to close up on, it looks like the sister car. No, it's one of the other Aussie cars that is much slower. So he goes past quite cleanly, no problem whatsoever. Now, what about Scotty Dixon? Really, he has to rely on some problem for Simon Wills at this point, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty much a clear-cut case. Identical lap times once again, and you say that's demoralising when you're trying to catch somebody. You're putting in your best effort, and there's just nothing happening. The whole thing's stabilised, and there he is. He's got a back marker in front of him, and he'll be just sort of thinking, oh my God, you know, I'm just never going to get anywhere here. So there, the gap is probably stretched out another 10th or two.
So Scott Dixon really will be resigned to that right now, I would say, as he leaves the hairpin and works the infield. You can see that the blue car ahead, the car of Simon Wills, is not coming back to him at all on this last lap of the opening Tasman Express race here at Ruapuna today. And Simon Wills, what a happy man he'll be after this. Still concentrating right now, I'm sure, and not letting any mistake creep in the last seconds of the race.
Oh yeah, just a perfect race performance from Simon, provided he gets through this last section of corners. Brilliant race. There's Scott in the background, but you know, I think Scott will have given it away by now, and Simon will be waiting for the finish.
So the 22-year-old from Auckland makes good on all the promise he's shown last weekend and in the last months this year, raises his arm in triumph as he comes across the finish line to take a pretty decisive win over Scott Dixon. Greg Murphy will come back for third place, but that's quite a long way back ahead of Wouter van Nieuwijk and Jason Liefding. There is Murphy coming through now, so you'll see what a big gap it is that opened up. Now Simon Wills, this relief will be enormous, I'm sure, as he sits inside the Reynard cruising around on the winning lap.
Yeah, well, you'd have to say that's quite a big turnaround from the last 2 or 3 days here. Scott has basically dominated this event, and right up to this moment, of course, the only bit that really counts is the race, and you know, Simon's really just run away with it. Scott's tried hard, but he'll be a little bit devastated by that. But I'm sure he'll come back strong for the second one.
Well, there's Scotty Dixon. We're travelling on board with him. He'll be a very, very sort of unhappy young man, I'm sure. Just 18, and really, as we saw, there's proof there that he is human after all. We thought maybe he wasn't, the way he puts in such peerless performances so many times. But in fact, today he's had to give second best so far today anyway to Simon Wills. So now we have 3 Kiwi single-seater stars in the firmament, and I guess Kenny Smith, that is not a bad situation to be in.
No, it's very good. I mean, when you think around New Zealand, there's some very, very good talent, and always has been, but it's just finance people need to make the break, and I think we've got good drivers in the top 3 guys here.
So looking at Simon Wills as he comes back, his mum and dad are waiting down in pit lane. Kieran Wills, of course, long a top Trans Am racer. Very proud dad at the moment, you can guarantee. He's just seen his boy. There he is. Kieran's on the phone, probably to Simon's grandmother or someone like that, the family, I guess. And that's Kieran's mum. That's Simon's mum and dad. And here he comes, the young man coming down into pit lane. Great victory today for Simon Wills.
Yes, Wills buried Scott Dixon at the start. Murphy slipped by as well. Dixon got up to second, but Wills did a terrific job, and the tightness of the competition overall can be seen in the results of the 3 rounds in the Summer Series so far. 3 rounds, 3 different winners. Let's get the winner's view of this race. Simon Wills with Murray Taylor.
Well, Simon, congratulations. Scott seemed to bog down at the start, and you didn't wait.
Yeah, I got a bit of wheel spin, and I was waiting for them to come through, but they didn't. I seemed to get in the first corner pretty well, so yeah, just put my ears back and sort of went for it, and got a bit of a gap, and I was pretty happy with it.
Well, you seem to be controlling the pace, but he did come back to you at the end there.
Yeah, I was just sort of plodding along. I didn't want to start sliding the car around and stuff the tyres up basically for this afternoon's Grand Prix, so I was just looking after things, and I just made sure he kept enough, sort of a gap behind, so I was pretty happy with the race really in general.
Well, quite an extraordinary situation. We've had 3 races in the Tasman Express Series, and I think the 3 Kiwi drivers have all had a first, a second and a third. Quite amazing.
Yeah, it shows how close it is. Like, it's very difficult. Like, we're all pushing really, really hard, and I'm pretty happy with how it's going. Like, we seem to be just gaining a bit of momentum now, so hopefully we can continue that on into the Grand Prix.
Well, there's been a lot of focus on Scott and Greg and talk about what they're doing next year, and you've sort of come from behind, haven't you? You've been the forgotten man a wee bit. Yeah,
I suppose, as like the quiet achiever, I suppose. But, they've got the limelight at the moment, but good on them because they're trying to get a drive over in America, so, I suppose that's fair enough. But, like now I'm starting to show that I can actually get up there as well, so hopefully that might bring some things towards me.
Well, good, a very good drive. Now, your season in Formula Holden and Australian last year, you had 1 win, but it was a bit up and down, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit up and down. We had quite a few faults with the car, and a couple of times we were taken out, so we only ended up finishing 4 races, which was a bit of a disappointment. But we're now just, I've got used to the cars and everything. We got a new car for Barana team, and things are going really good, and I can't wait till next year now.
Well, we can't wait for later this afternoon, the 4th race, the big one.
Yeah, that's going to be the big one, yeah, for sure.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, well done, Simon Wills. The next time we see the Formula Holdens, it will be for the 43rd running of the New Zealand Grand Prix. That's live at 4:30. An anxious time of it in the pits at the moment. Light rain is falling here at Ruapuna. Also to come, round 2 of the Trans Ams. Kerry Jones setting the pace, Shane Drake pushing hard. Plenty of variety to enjoy as we count down to that 4:30 start for the Grand Prix.